Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. This podcast is dedicated to EAS employees of the U.S. Postal Service and members of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. So, pour yourself a cup of coffee and join us for today's episode. And now, here's your host, Robert Wakefield.
Good morning, Branch 32, and hello to all of our EAS friends across the country. Welcome to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. I'm Robert Wakefield, your host. That's right. Thank you. President of Branch 32. There you go. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's pour that first cup. Make a difference this January 30th. Join us at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union's Blood Drive from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Our mission, people helping people, is at the heart of this event. Each donation you make can save lives and strengthen our community. Not only will you have a chance to be a hero, but by signing up and donating, you'll also be entered into a special drawing for a Yeti cooler. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union. People helping people since 1925. And for our first cup today, it's great to have Brian Wagner back with us. Brian, how are you?
Oh, I've been very good. Weather's just great here. There's a little bit of snow outside, but we're having way too much fun.
No, there you go.
But at least I have my coffee to keep me warm.
That is exactly right. You must have your coffee to keep you warm. It's great to have Brian here with us again. We are taking another look at involuntary reassignments. In the last podcast, we talked a great deal about the history of how we got here and kind of gave an overview of some of the things about, and even gave the definition of what an involuntary reassignment is. Today, we're going to discuss what happens, what you should do if you are involuntarily reassigned. So, Brian, what should I do? I'm a level 17 supervisor, and I've been involuntarily reassigned. Tell me what I should do next.
Well, as a level 17 and below, they have a right, EAS have a right to file a grievance under the ELM 650 process. So it's specifically under ELM 652.41, other appealable actions. Mm-hmm. Now, I've written about filing grievances for EAS 17s and below. So if a 17 and below EAS member or employee is being involuntarily reassigned, they would actually file a grievance. A step A, they would make the complaint to the manager who is appealing to the manager who's involuntarily reassigning them.
Okay.
That's a step A. Mm-hmm. If that manager says, hey, I'm still involuntarily reassigning you for these purposes, then that EAS 17 and below has a right to file a step B to the next higher level manager, which is your boss's boss.
Right. And
try to resolve this involuntary reassignment. And if that doesn't work, then the next step is an ELM 650 review at the area HR. Mm-hmm. That's the same process that we follow for letters of warning or emergency placement. A step A, a step B, and a review.
Exactly.
And then the area from review would give a final determination. Okay. Now, the key is, I think, did the post office follow the guidelines of the involuntary reassignment process?
Okay.
And that's where it happens that you're being moved with 1 day's notice. You weren't talked to. But what happens if, and I'll go here, Bob, if you have a level 18 and above getting involuntary reassigned? Mm-hmm. Well, according to the ELM 650, there is no grievance process for 18s and above. So I tell our members who are 18 and above, if you're being involuntary reassigned, mm-hmm. to me, that's an obedience to order. You're given a direct order to report to a different office at a different time, different location.
Right.
That's under ELM 665.15, obedience to orders. Mm-hmm. And under that provision, the employee must follow the instructions of their supervisor, right? You give me an order to report differently. You didn't follow the involuntary reassignment process, but even if you did, I have a right to complain. So if I feel that the order that given is questionable, the propriety of this order, then I have a right to file a protest.
Okay.
To
now,
that official in charge.
Is filing a protest like filing a grievance under the for level 17s? Is it different? I don't understand the terminology.
Well, that's because it's very vague. So we in NAPS have to come up with our own strategy how we're going to appeal it. I would appeal it basically in the same way under level 17 and below, a step A, step B, and a review. However, under the ELM provision 665.15, obedience to orders, it just says if an employee has reason to question the propriety of the supervisor's order, the individual must nevertheless carry out the order and may immediately file a protest in writing to the official in charge of the installation or may appeal through other channels. Very vague.
It is vague.
Very vague.
I love that.
So what I tried to do in my training, in my Zoom into training, when we're talking about grievances, is still follow the process. You're going to appeal it to the official in charge, and then if necessary, you're going to move it up the same way, move it to their boss and their boss's boss. But that's one of the things I think NAPS needs to look at. And again, another maybe Cup of Joe podcast is we need to change some of these ELM references because they're very vague.
They really are. They're so vague that you can't even discuss it with the manager because we don't know what it means.
Right. So we as NAPS have to take I consider the proactive approach. We get creative in our strategies to write the appeal, to write the protest. Protest, grievance, however you want, potato, whatever it is, tomato.
Gotcha.
My thing is you still make a protest. Get it in writing.
Okay.
That it wasn't followed.
Now, let me ask you this, Brian. It's been, since you've got so much experience in this, how successful is filing the grievance as a 17 or the protest as an 18 and above? How successful are we on those on average? Do you know? Do you have any figures at all? Or
I don't have any figures, and I'll tell you why. Most members didn't even know they could file a grievance.
That's true. That is so true.
I wrote my article for this past postal supervisor article in January, for the January issue, talks about grievance filing for EAS 17s. And then I look at level 18s and above, the obedience to orders, because we just follow the orders.
Right.
What is my recourse? If you have discipline, you have the appeal process.
Correct.
But that's where in the ELM section, it's other appealable matters.
Okay.
That's what this is, policy violations.
Right.
So, all we can do is at least put the post office on notice. We want them to follow the guidelines of the policy. Now, there is a set rules that the post office should follow when they're going to involuntarily reassign somebody. And if they follow that, we may not like it, but at least they followed it, and we can still make a complaint or a protest or a grievance. But the issue we're running into is last minute moves. Families being disrupted because they have to make childcare changes. And like we said in the previous podcast, you're not giving people time to rearrange maybe their lifestyle temporarily.
Right. And so that seems to be the thing in our district anyway. It seems like to me that a manager or a postmaster or whoever it is will say, well, our mail volume is not going to be that much today, so I'm going to bring you in at 9, and then I expect our mail volume to be up really high, so I'm going to bring you up at 6 at your regular time. They can't do that. Is that correct?
They can do whatever they want if we don't file the protest, but that's just like moving you as a PTF. My thing is also denying you your tea time if you were working. If the workload's there, because the job was posted, when it was posted for applying, each postal job has an assigned number to it and a work schedule in WebCoins.
Right.
So it tells you what your start time is and what your days off, and that's a job number.
And that's to me, Brian, that is one of the biggest things that I've discovered is the fact that managers or postmasters or supervisors, plants, whoever is doing this, are paying no attention to the schedules that people have been assigned. Well, I need you over here now. I'm going to move you whether you like it or not.
And we understand the process of serving the postal customer. But it shouldn't even be at the detriment of the EAS employees' lifestyle and their workplace, family and workplace life balance. And again, if you're going to move somebody temporarily, what is temporarily?
Exactly.
How long is that?
Yeah. That's exactly right. So that's another thing that I wanted to talk to you too, Brian, about in the Dave Williams letter. The second paragraph starts off, while temporary and voluntary reassignments may be made for training or developmental needs or to meet operating requirements, there are practical limiting factors regarding such reassignments. So let's talk about, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left. Let's talk about the first one of the guidelines in today's podcast, and that's talking about the purpose of the reassignment.
Well, again, you're going to have some temporarily operational changes. Might be you're starting some carriers later, clerks later, mails coming in, trucks coming in at a different time in a plant. So you're going to have some temporary changes in somebody's schedule. Mm-hmm. Reasonable, right? It happens. Right. And then it's like I talked about, touched on briefly in the last one, is training. You have new people coming in. They know the morning operation, but not the closing operation or a certain, and again, I didn't work in a plant. I walked through a plant, as I tell people, but if you have an operation going on, somebody knows whatever machine operation and automation they need to be trained on. Correct. It's reasonable. Okay. But again, then you have your emergency situations. Something's come up. Somebody's gotten ill. Somebody's got to move somewhere else temporarily, or maybe somebody's gone on a detail voluntarily. Mm-hmm. So it leaves an opening. So they're going to just move you without talking to you about it. Okay. So, and that's not really an operational change. That's a staffing issue. That's a scheduling. Operations didn't change, just the scheduling changed.
I see.
So. And again, I know post office, and many times will say needs of the service.
Yeah, well, that drives me crazy. That drives me crazy.
What's the operational change? And I've heard managers say, I moved Robert to a different operation for operational changes. What's the operational change? He goes, Robert's going to do better in that operation than Brian's doing. Well, that's not an operational change. That's thinking I'll do a better job, but you need to coach and mentor me to be a better job under Elm 652.3, not move me because you think Robert's going to do a better job than I am. You need to coach and mentor me to do a better job in that operation.
That's exactly right. Well, can you believe we are out of time already? This first cup is already done. Look at us.
Man, I have a few sips left. I talk too much.
Well, tell me what the ice cream flavor of the day is for today, Brian.
Well, I just read in the paper that the Girl Scouts are moving not going to have some of their cookies, but I always like their mint Oreo. So mint Oreo cookie is one of my favorites. At least they're not getting rid of that one. But
very good.
Mint Oreo cookie is safe.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Well, thank you, Brian. And we will be talking in the next podcast on more about temporary involuntary reassignments, if that's okay.
That's perfect.
All right. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, Robert.
This March the 30th, join us in celebrating a century of trust and a century of service. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union is hosting its 100th annual meeting celebration at the luxurious Sonesta Hotel from 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Mark your calendars for a night of history, festivities, and fun. For more details and updates, like and follow our Facebook page and be a part of this monumental milestone. The Nashville Post Office Credit Union, people helping people since 1925. And for our second cup today, I wanted to bring up that Branch 32 will be having its first branch meeting for 2025, and that's coming up on Tuesday, January 28th, and it'll be at 6 o'clock, and we meet, of all places, at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. That's right. They let us meet there. So one of the things that I encouraged in one of our very early episodes is that we encourage you to attend a branch meeting this year, whether you're in Branch 32 or any other branch in and around the country. Make it a New Year's resolution that you're going to be a part, an active part of your local branch. So, Branch 32, you have a meeting coming up on January 28th at 6 p.m. at the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. So there you have it. That's today's Saturday Cup of Joe podcast presented by the Nashville Post Office Credit Union. You know the drill. Here we go. Share this with all your EAS friends and ask them to like and subscribe. That's the only way this thing is going to grow. I really do appreciate it. Well, thanks so much for listening to Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. I'm Robert Wakefield, and remember, every great weekend starts with a great cup of Joe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Saturday Cup of Joe podcast. Please note that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Robert Wakefield and do not necessarily reflect the views of the National Association of Postal Supervisors. We welcome your questions and comments, so send those to SaturdayCupOfJoe@gmail.com.